Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Premier League Nightclub podcast. My name is Damon, and with me, I haven't had to say two names for about a month, and I've said it maybe once in about 2 months. With me today, I just have Woody. Woody, how are you, mate? Welcome back.
Thanks, Damo. Thank you so much. Great to be back. I can say I definitely missed the podcast while I was away. It's surprising when we've been doing it for almost 4 months now, how much you miss it, even over 3 episodes. Like, you miss it for 3 episodes.
Yeah. Even when Sam and I were talking quite a bit of smack about you.
You talked a lot of smack about me, and I feel as if you were intentionally leaving me on scene in our group chat as well, just so you could talk smack. So it was interesting listening to it, don't get me wrong, but I definitely missed being behind the microphone. It was a different vibe listening to it as just a viewer. Was it like stressful? Because I sometimes found that when I would listen to you and Sam, it'd be like, you know, obviously going into every episode we have an idea of what we want to talk about and like what the points we really want to hit on the head perfectly. And then so I always found that even when I wasn't involved in an episode, I still would think like, oh, if I was doing the podcast this week, I'd want to talk about this. So did you have that sort of idea where you wanted us to hit criteria? I think there were definitely points where I listened to you guys and I think, okay, this would be perfect for me to say what I wanted to say. Yeah. And then maybe you guys would go off on a tangent and the conversation wouldn't go the way that I would plan it in my head and the way it would sort of come to me. But that's also, it was exciting to listen to as well because... Yeah. You don't get the scripted version almost. Yeah, and it's a different dynamic to having... It's always... Like, us is a different dynamic to having Sam here as well. And then Sam and I, and then just you and Sam. It's different like because we all have... Like, we're obviously 3 best mates, but the way we interact with each other is different. Personally, the way we interact all together. Spot on. I mean, it's really interesting to listen to, don't get me wrong. Well, steering away from the podcast, but keeping on your trip, how was it? Obviously you went to Tottenham, Liverpool, which we just... I did. I had heaps of fun, and I think the plan was originally actually to go to Palace versus Arsenal on the same day, which I'm pretty sure was a 1-1 draw. Yeah, Aubameyang got sent off in that one. Exactly, and that was a pretty dramatic match. But then we figured out, because Selhurst Park is like South London and Tottenham is obviously very far North London. Yep. The time to get to each game probably would have been a little bit too long. We wouldn't have been able to suck in the atmosphere. So we made a day of going to Tottenham. And don't get me, like, the Tottenham Stadium is next level. Yeah. It is so good. I'm very jealous. The atmosphere at the game was crazy, and especially playing Liverpool, having the Liverpool supporters sitting in their away section they were so vibrant, so loud, and they were ruthless with some of the chants they were saying as well, as you can probably imagine. But the Tottenham Stadium, like the way it's been built, and I guess not just the stadium but also the precinct is just amazing. Something that you don't see here in Melbourne. Like, sure, we've got the Olympic Boulevard, but just doesn't compare. And it's just looking up and seeing the gold Tottenham idol at the top of the stadium as well. Yeah, it's like a thing of beauty, honestly. And they shine it up during the game. So it's a religion. It is a religion. It was it was funny because I was sitting, probably rambling on a little bit here, but right. In front of us was a guy from Wales, who spent 3.5 hours to get to each Tottenham game. Had been doing it for 12 years. To the right of me was a guy from LA who was a Tottenham supporter who came over and was doing a Europe trip. So he just went to the San Siro, went and saw the Milan derby. Yep. Went to see a Napoli game as well. Napoli, that's the way he said it. But the guy was American guy next to me, and behind me was two Tottenham guys. So I sort of had everything, and Dad to my left. Yeah. So it was really interesting. Like you go there and you just see such a mix of things. It's definitely a reflection of modern football and modern Premier League these days. Obviously, everyone has their opinion on the tourist factor and the money that it brings into the game, and whether it's good or bad for the quality and good or bad for the atmosphere. But yeah, I mean, that just pretty much sums up like what we're doing right here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there are American podcasts about the Premier League. It's the global game. It is. And so, yeah, it's a perfect reflection, Woody, of, the current situation of the world game. Obviously, a lot has happened since you got back. We've had, a whole round go by, which is about a week ago now, which we're going to be touching on a little bit today. Of course, the FA Cup, where a few teams bounced back from disappointing results, and vice versa, the other way around. So, yeah, like, obviously, Woody, something even bigger happened during the week, and I know you wanted to touch on that. Yeah, definitely. It was the passing of Kobe Bryant and his daughter, Gigi, in a helicopter crash, tragic, just outside of LA. Unfortunately, that day we lost probably one of the most iconic sporting figures of the last decade.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
And I think it goes without saying he was bigger than basketball.
Mm-hmm.
His reach was well beyond the NBA. And I think we're both huge Celtics fans, Damon, so we saw the rivalry between Celtics and Lakers in 2009, 2010, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And Kobe did say that him winning over the Celtics in 2010 was his greatest victory because of the rivalry that had gone on. And we were so lucky to grow up and see him on our televisions.
Yeah, well, I probably, as a Celtics fan, you're probably a little bit bigger than me, Woody, in the NBA. But I just remember, even when I didn't really get into the NBA too much in my when I was really young, and as you said, Woody, I only started getting really interested in it in those 2008, 9, 10, 11 years. It was probably, everybody knew who Kobe Bryant was. When we'd be throwing a piece of paper in the classroom into the bin.
Yelling, Kobe!
Everybody said, Kobe! It was just like, I don't think even like Messi has that pulling, that what, can you help me out?
I think it was ability to capture people's hearts.
Yeah, I think, like Messi's probably, arguably more well known, but it's more about the, what Kobe did. And
I completely agree with you. And
I can't think of another athlete who's had more influence.
Oh, mate, it's hard to put into words, but I think it was just something that we both wanted to touch on a little bit as well, because
we couldn't sit here and talk about sport without mentioning it.
Exactly, and no way. It wasn't a loss to the NBA alone; it was a loss to the sporting world.
Mm-hmm.
So very sad. I mean, and it was very sad as well, considering there were, I think, everyone else that was on the crash as well. It wasn't just Kobe and his daughter. There are numerous people involved in the crash that passed away. Yeah. Very tragic. But I think, Damo, we need to kick into gear a bit, because like we've had a massive week. Especially with the FA Cup coming in. Like it's been a huge mix, and not just Premier League action as well.
Yeah, I think, Woody, I'd ask you to do the quickfire results. Do you want to do the quickfire results for the Premier League? But I think we're going to be talking about a lot more than that on this particular episode. So, for now, hit us with those quick-fire results.
To kick off the round, Bournemouth down Brighton 3-1. Aston Villa beat Watford 2-1. Southampton beat Crystal Palace 2-0. City down the Mighty Blades 1-0. Everton drew with Newcastle, what was a thriller, 2-2. Arsenal versus Chelsea didn't fail to disappoint. It was a 2-2 draw. Leicester hammered West Ham 4-1. Tottenham beat Norwich 2-1. Burnley down United 2-0. And to cap off the round, Liverpool beat Wolves 2-1.
I just find it quite funny that you couldn't help but put a little bit of a giggle on that 2-0 scoreline at Old Trafford. But anyway, these games like a week ago, but I think we'll just get stuck straight into probably the game of that round, and that was Chelsea versus Arsenal.
Looks up towards goal. Yes! Found it! An unlikely goal scorer, Hector Bellerin, scores, and it's 2-2.
All right, Woody, this one was bizarre. It was the game was at about 7 a.m. Melbourne, Australia time. So, we're having our bacon and eggs, all that sort of stuff, watching this one. And for the most part, you just figured that Chelsea would get the job done. Even when it was, obviously it was 0-0 at the start. And I think Chelsea would have started better. Obviously, Mustafi, a horrific back pass, and then David Luiz being David Luiz, which I know you have some very strong opinions on, so I'll ask you that in a second. But for the most part, it was just one of those games where I'm still not really sure how Chelsea didn't win.
I think it was a tale of who was like. I'm speechless because I was watching the game and I was messaging Sam and yourself, but I was actually overseas at the time.
Yep.
Watching the game with my dad, and like we just couldn't believe what we were seeing. It was deceptive how bad the game was. Mm-hmm. I think because I was looking at the lineups when they came out, and you just see Mustafi and Luiz, and your eyes burn through the team sheet. You're like, could it happen again? And it happened. It happened straight away within 26 minutes, actually. And
the thing is, like, there's stereotypically defenders. Look at Lovren from Liverpool. Like, they always have these types of defenders have their moments, such as like David Luiz and Mustafi can. But these guys, they just tend to, their moments are so much more catastrophic than than other defenders. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
I know exactly what you mean. And I said this to my dad as well after the game. If I was to start a circus, Mustafi and Louise would be the main act every single time. And it'd be a bloody sellout. Because as tragic as it is to see them play on the pitch and how like their stupid moments dictate a game, it's so entertaining to watch because you just think, how the hell are these guys professional football players? I don't know.
You know, all right, well, I think you're being a little bit harsh. I actually think David Luiz hasn't been too bad for Arsenal.
Well, he technically kept a clean sheet in his 26 minutes on the pitch.
That is true. But, no, I just, you know, all right, yes, he's conceded 3 penalties in the Premier League, more than any other player in the league. He's always going to bring those moments to you. And I think Arsenal knew what they were signing when they picked up David Luiz. But I think I do have to pose a question to you, and that is, could the red card have been avoided?
Look, yes, I think absolutely could have been avoided. And the reason why I sort of hesitate is because could David Luiz avoid it? No, but any other defender, probably. That's the thing.
I'll give you a sentence here, Woody, and you tell me if you can work with it, okay?
Yeah.
I would say that Mustafi made a massive, massive mistake, but David Luiz just made it worse than it had to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, he literally, he had no composure about him.
Yeah, no, at all. And I think... technically he should have narrowed his channel so Abraham didn't have the space to skip past Kepa so easily.
You mean
Leno? Leno so easily. My bad. But then looking at the challenge itself, if an elite defender should be able to compute that if he just barrels into Abraham's legs, yelling "Hasta la vista, baby," and he knows that it'll be a red card and it'll go off.
Yeah. And the thing that got me, though, was like, you know, the change of rule with the red card? If he's making a genuine attempt for the ball, then the referee can give a yellow instead of a red. I just thought it was bizarre, the way he approached the tackle.
He literally...
he just grabbed him and took him down.
He just sprinted into him.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it. He just literally ran.
The challenge was genuinely more upper body than leg. It was bizarre.
It was
Seriously
ridiculous to see. I could not believe it.
And that's the thing. As soon as it happened, Louise turned around and pointed at Mustafi as if to say, there's a defender behind me. It's not last man. And it's like, well, that's sort of not how it works because you passed the keeper. But also, it's like, mate, yeah, you might have had a point if you didn't just almost spear tackle the bloke. Do you know what I mean?
It was something you see in a WWE ring. Honestly, it was just so weird to see. Probably fair to say Arsenal played better with 10 men than they did with 11 in the first 26 minutes. I think that's probably a fair assessment of where they're at, actually.
Well, we saw after that, though, Martinelli scored on the break. And obviously, Martinelli's probably had a breakout season. You know, we've seen some comparisons already to some of the other young guns in the league. One person I really want to ask you about, Woody, because it was someone I didn't actually, you know, for my own team's benefit, I needed Chelsea not to win.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to moz anything. But I was really tempted, obviously we've got some mates that are Chelsea fans, and I was really tempted to call out a bloke who I thought, I know he's come back from injury, but I'm just overall haven't seen anything to understand the hype, and that's Callum Hudson-Odoi. Martinelli's come on in the last few months, and I would say achieved more than Callum Hudson-Odoi has done in his time so far.
Not even a question. I think the game was deceptive as well because I said earlier that this Chelsea-Arsenal game was deceptive about how bad it is. And I think the same reflects to Hudson-Odoi's game. Like, the stats tell a different story to the way it was. Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of pundits saying that Hudson-Odoi looked lively. He's not paid to look lively. He's paid to create.
I think he scored one Premier League goal ever, and that was to top off a 3-0 win at home to Burnley.
I mean, he got the assist, but that was lucky because Arsenal was so bad at defending.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He had 87% passing accuracy, 12 crosses, 2 shot assists. He had the assist for Aspie's goal and 1 big chance created. Now, that usually paints a picture of a good game. But for me...
12 crosses,
what he was doing was fluff.
Yeah.
He sits there on the wing and he does the Neymar feints and whatever. And I understand he's a flashy player, but the end result was nowhere near as where it should be. Now, they had Xhaka and Mustafi playing centre-back. Mm-hmm. And at Bellerin, who's just come back into the team. Now...
They were vulnerable.
Vulnerable is an understatement. Mm-hmm. Now, Hudson-Odoi is supposed to be playing for England. You cannot tell me that the stuff that the crosses he was putting in, no matter volume, they weren't quality.
Yeah,
they were not quality at all.
I seriously tend to agree. And as I said, I think there's younger players in the... Hudson-Odoi is still very, very young. Mm. But I just think when you look at the players around... the same age as Hudson-Odoi, especially considering the situation at Chelsea, where if there was ever a time for a young player such as him to get game time at a club like Chelsea, it's now.
Yeah,
you've got to take the most of the opportunity. We saw, I know we talked about Abraham and Mount all season, and I'd actually make a case that Mount's probably starting to really fatigue.
Yeah,
because
I think Abraham's starting to fatigue as well.
Both of them output has plummeted since maybe October, November. So I think that's a little bit of concern for Chelsea, because since they went on that little bit of a run, and people were even saying, I think they went to the Etihad, and although they lost, they dominated possession, which was just something we hadn't seen before in so long. But now it's starting to, in the space of 2 months, Chelsea have gone from, being the team that could push Liverpool and Man City to honestly being a very fortunate fourth place.
Very
team.
fortunate. And if it
They're just
wasn't
lucky everyone else.
If it wasn't for the rabble that is 4th to 13th, then I think Chelsea would be out of it. And I think their time is also coming as well. But looking at Chelsea, they've had the opportunity to go and buy someone in this January transfer window. Now, the backup for Abraham is Batshuayi. Batshuayi blew the chance to win the game later on when he came on.
Yes.
Okay? Now, he got on one of Hudson-Odoi's actually quality crosses. But the thing is, it begs the option, why haven't Chelsea gone out and signed someone? I know they linked with Cavani. We posted on the Instagram. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, Batshuayi is not an adequate backup, and Abraham is fatiguing.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Give these young kids a break. They need a break. We'll wrap up with just one sort of question here, Woody. I know I like to do it. And do you think Lampard, looking at his team now, he's said in the post-match that they didn't get what they needed out of the game, and it's very, very clear that they're struggling to score when they need to. We look at games against Bournemouth, Newcastle, Southampton. They just, not only are they losing, but they're not scoring. But so much earlier in the year, it was their ability to score, which was fine, but it was their ability to defend. And now suddenly they've lost that ability to score, probably because of the situation with these younger players starting to fatigue. But would you say the attack or defence needs work if you were in charge of signings and you got to sign one player? I'm not going to ask who it is, because that's easy to just pick a strong defender or a strong attacker. But would you look at an attacker or would you look at a defender?
Attacker for me every day, because I've always run by the motto that the best attack beats the best defense.
Really?
That's the way I look at it. The best attack will always beat the best defense. Now, shoot me in the foot if I'm wrong. I understand people have different opinions, but for me, the best attackers in the world are better than the best defenders.
Okay.
That's for me. And so, for me, I think that looking at the last 20, 25 minutes of the game, Chelsea had the opportunity to put the game away, and if they had a proven striker that was ruthless in the box, that had the ability to strike what strikers do and just pop up where they need to pop up, they could have not only put 2 past Arsenal, they had opportunity to put 4 past Arsenal. I think that's probably what they lack. So for me, attacker every day. Yeah,
well, we saw both these teams struggle in the FA Cup over the weekend, despite getting wins. A 2-1 win at Hull City for Chelsea and a 2-1 win this morning against Bournemouth for Arsenal. So, these teams, although they're getting through, it's just over and over again not convincing in the way they're playing. Anyway, Woody, are we happy to move on to winners and losers? Because you haven't heard this music, live in the studio for a month. You must be buzzing.
I'm buzzing. I'm keen. All
right, it is time for winners and losers. Oi, did someone say winners and losers?
Sure did, mate. Oh, so good. So good.
Every time. All right. My winner of the week is a team we actually talk about a strange amount on this podcast.
Too much.
Yeah, I think it's because of Jack Grealish. But Aston Villa are my winner, and it's, goodness me, talk about a must-win. Watford hadn't lost in 6 previous Premier League games to this one. Watford just then went ahead, but a last-minute winner from, we'll say Tyrone Mings, although, Woody, did you see how this goal was scored? It was like...
I did.
Everyone thought... sorry, I can't remember the player's name at the moment, but turns off a little deflection off Tyrone Mings. Got the 2-1 win in the 95th minute. So that was absolute scenes at Villa Park. And I've been doing some reading. I haven't actually had the chance to head to Villa Park, but people say, if you're going to go to a stadium, you've got to go to Villa Park. So that's definitely on my bucket list. And if you were there on that day, goodness me, 95th minute winner. But also worth noting that Tyrone Mings probably should have been sent off for a second yellow card offence during that game. So again, a little bit of luck. Does that goal keep them up? Potentially.
Who knows?
Who knows?
They're playing well. They're on a bit of a roll.
They are.
Yep.
Woody, who's your winner?
My winner of the week is the Saints, Southampton. So unbelievably across all competitions, now the Saints have just lost one of their last 9, which we didn't pick. I
Unbelievable.
think Danny Ings is definitely Danny Ings and Ward Prowse and those boys. Shane Long proving the bits. Yeah, they're showing a bit of class and a bit of promise as well. So their last loss came from their 2-0 lead. Which they gave up to the Wolves, and can you believe now they sit 9th? I honestly don't think that's a tale that we would have thought would have been told. And the 2-0 win against Crystal Palace, quite the result. Palace have been pretty tough this season, very stubborn as well, and they've got some quality players. So for me, Saints, they're not far away. They're not far away from
Europa.
They're not, and it's scary because that again, that 5th to 13th, it's a bit of a roll of the dice now in the next 2 rounds where it's going to shift.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It is.
And you never know. Saints with a couple of fortunate goals and fortunate runs, they could be sitting right up in that top of that 5th to 13th bracket. Who knows?
Who knows where they could be.
Damo, who is your loser of the week?
My loser is the linesman at Bramall Lane. Now, I've always taken an interest this season in VAR and just all-round refereeing decisions because I think one of the great things of sport is that referees get decisions wrong. I think it creates debate. It creates job opportunities for people like you and me, to be honest. But the one at Bramall Lane was pretty horrendous, and it was Dean Henderson's penalty save. Now, he's saved 6 of his last 10 penalties that he's faced. That is phenomenal. Okay, like top goalkeepers go like 1 in 10, if that. Dean Henderson knows how to save a penalty, but the one on the week or last week was pretty dodgy. He was in another postcode to the goal line. Gabriel Jesus ran, and I reckon Henderson was about to nosedive, like just leaned forward, tried to stay on the line as long as possible, but it wasn't even close. He literally took 2 steps forward, then Jesus shot. He saved it, but then not only that, Henderson got up and picked up the deflection off himself. So it's that definitely the linesman has one job in that situation. It's just to watch the goalkeeper and make sure he doesn't come off his line. What was he watching? And I looked it up. VAR don't have any power in overturning that. They only have the power to turn over the player running into the box, which has been picked up a few times this season.
What? It's not consistent.
It's bizarre. Seriously bizarre.
But
So
I honestly reckon
VAR's a bit of a loser here as well.
If they clamp down on that, I would be probably gobsmacked about how many keepers would get penalties recalled. I think it's a pretty loose rule.
It is. I think they need... my biggest thing is always be consistent.
Yeah.
If they're going to pin every keeper for it, that's fine. But Dean Henderson got away with one there, and the Lions probably lucky that City ends up winning the game, because if that... not that City have too much to play for in the league, because you'd have to say they're summed up top 4 nicely, but aren't going to win the league. But still, it's lucky that City won for that linesman's sake. Woody, who is your loser?
Bit of a weird one. I've gone for probably one of the best centre-backs in the league in Joel Matip as my loser this week. And it's a bit of a funny one because I think his injury earlier in the season allowed Joe Gomez to now become what is England's best defender. The best English defender, I should say. And that, I know it's a big...
little clip at someone else, but anyway, move on.
I tell you what, the one thing good about Joe Gomez is definitely not taunting after a 6-0 through a 6-0 win, and he's not getting the head of a League 2 team. That's for sure. I don't know anyone else that does that. But anyway, with Gomez's current form, I think it's pretty hard for Matip to find his way back in the team. Joe Gomez just keeps putting together elite performances, and I was lucky enough to see him in the Tottenham-Liverpool game. And I know I haven't touched on it that much, but Van Dijk, in terms of stature, in game is just next level.
You've seen the man live.
He sits at 17'9" in height, and he's just an absolute behemoth on the pitch. But Joe Gomez is slick and as classy as they come as a centre back. And look, by the numbers, Gomez had an absolute game and a half against Wolves. 100% tackles won, 87% pass accuracy. Could go on for days. 3 interceptions, but he was just next level. And I just can't see how Matip, who is now probably one of the top 5 centre-backs in the league, is going to make it back into that Liverpool side, unless it's in a cup game or unless it's someone gets injured.
I think it's just the beauty of this Liverpool team, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like Richard Baylor said, they got 4 world-class centre-backs now.
And just on that, it's probably worth mentioning that Klopp this week has said that due to them having to play a replay of the FA Cup game, they will not be playing any of their senior team, and Klopp won't even be managing it because they've got their winter break for a week, and the FA want them to play the game during that. So, it's funny how stubborn Klopp's been about it. You literally just said, Woody, that they've got 4 unbelievable centre backs. He's not willing to risk any of them.
Why would you?
Yeah,
they're competing in the Champions League and the league.
Damning assessment of the FA Cup though from Jurgen, and
which I don't think it sends the right.
It doesn't, but everyone's got an opinion. But to be honest, I actually don't really mind how it is right now. But that's just me.
Team first.
Sorry, I just smashed the table accidentally with my hand.
No,
really hurt.
No, team first play, and I think he knows the value of his players and doesn't want to jeopardise that.
Yeah, fair enough. Can't argue with that. All right, Woody, now let's move on to... We'll do a quick little assessment of this one because, Woody, you were like, oh, Damo, do you want to attack the FA Cup or do you want to attack the Premier League? And I was like, I don't really mind, but we've got to talk about this one. All right. So we're going to get stuck into Everton versus Newcastle.
All eyes on the referee. Ritchie towards the right. Defenders in the box. Controlled by Fernandes. Played across. Chance here for Newcastle. And another. And it's saved on the line. Have they got it in? They can't scramble it in. It's gone in. It's an equaliser. The referee has looked at his watch. And from absolutely nowhere, Newcastle United have scored 2 goals deep into added on time. It is an incredible late show at Goodison Park.
Honestly, Everton Football Club are something else. They really are something else. Here in Australia, we aren't gifted with many, many, many Everton fans, but, why would you want to be? Oh, my God. They put their fans through absolute torture, and they did it yet again last week.
I haven't talked to... My girlfriend's dad was born as a massive Everton supporter and did the away days and went growing up and did the European competitions and whatnot. And I haven't talked to him about this game yet. And I'm a bit scared to because I think he might punch me in the face if I do.
Honestly, it's bizarre that this keeps happening. I think they stuffed it against Brighton. They've lost to Norwich, Villa and Bournemouth. Then they stuffed this one up on the weekend. Yeah, they're on 30 points. They're only 4 points behind fifth. Could you imagine where they could be if they actually had any cojones?
Mate, can you imagine if any of these teams sitting 4th to 13th had any cojones, mate?
It's ridiculous. But, a guy who did probably have his best game is a guy who had 9 touches of the ball. I've never seen a better 9-touch display in my life. I think Javier Hernandez... Chicharito, who comes to mind.
Erling Haaland?
All right, yeah, fair enough. Can't argue with that. But Moise Kean, he's finally put one in the back of the net for the Toffees. He had, as I said, just 9 touches, but he went 100% passing accuracy, created a heap of chances, 3 shots on target, and obviously a goal. He killed that, and you could tell he's enjoying his football again. Ancelotti's got him a little bit more switched on. The English game's still a test for him. But I think that maybe a month ago, it looked very likely that he was on his way out this January. Now it looks like, Everton fans are going to get to see him for at least another 6 months, see what he can do.
Well, I think he's thriving in a 4-4-2 because he has the partnership. Sole striker, he's not strong as a sole striker.
Yeah, you think back at Juventus, when he came on as a sub, quite often he had Dybala, Ronaldo, these players around him.
Yeah,
it's a bit different.
He was surrounded by attacking prominence.
Yeah.
I think that's what he needs. He needs someone to almost be his foil. Maybe he can be the foil. So I think it plays into his game to have a partner up there. But then looking, I guess, another line back is Everton's midfield. And it's interesting. We pose a few questions because we see them switch to a 4-4-2, which is a lot different for the way it's Everton of old.
Yeah, Marco Silva style was not a 4-4-2. That's
No,
for sure.
it wasn't, and that's definitely true in saying that, Damo. And the thing is, you look at Ancelotti and the way he's played with. He's had the best players in the world play under him, at Real Madrid, at Napoli, at all these teams, and he's probably coming. He's showing promise with this Everton team. Is he starting to experiment now with the team selection?
Yeah, I think Everton's recent run of form pretty much now. There's absolutely, unless they somehow fall off a cliff here, they'll stay up. And I think that was a serious concern for Everton fans at one point. But now that they've got a little bit of breathing space, we've seen Holgate, Davies, Schneiderlin, Delph, Sigurdsson all playing that midfield too. I think their last 3 games, Davies has played twice, Holgate once, Schneiderlin once, Delph twice. Like, they've really changed it up. When they played City about a month ago, all 4 of them played, and they didn't play with wingers. So, I think Ancelotti honestly doesn't know which ones he's going to stick with. You'd probably have to say Sigurdsson's the one that's dropped in form because of what we know he can deliver. Delph obviously has the experience at a top club like Man City. Davies was young, but he probably hasn't got as much game time as he would have liked over the last 12 to 24 months. Schneiderlin played for Man United. So all these guys are about, 70% good players. Do you get what I'm getting at?
I understand. They're not average, but they're not elite.
Yeah, and so I think Ancelotti's really trying to figure it out. I mean, up until two months ago, we'd never seen Holgate play in midfield before. He's actually quite a good defensive midfielder. So, Ancelotti's still trying to figure it out,
I'd say Captain Hindsight's a fickle thing, but I think one player that Everton would love to have now that they're playing a 4-4-2 would be Idrissa Gueye. And he would really thrive in this 4-4-2 system, I reckon.
It'd be reminiscent of a Kante at Leicester when they were playing the 4-4-2. Exactly the same.
With Drinkwater behind him. And I think someone like a Davies next to Idrissa Gueye would allow Davies to do really flourish.
Exactly. And I'd even say Sigurdsson would improve because when you have someone like Gueye, it allows, especially when Everton are coming up against one of the big teams, but when they're playing a Norwich at home, instead of losing 2-0, you can play a Gueye and a Sigurdsson and have way more attacking threats. Obviously Richarlison's probably the only player this season who's been consistent for Everton. Yeah. So, it just allows a little bit more flexibility in their play. So, you're right, Woody. They definitely would benefit from someone like that in their team.
I mean, like we say, like Captain Hindsight is a beautiful man. And we all love to have it, but it is what it is, and I guess they can only do with what they've got at the moment. But looking at that as well, Everton, have conceded 7 goals in the 90th minute onwards in the Premier League this season.
That is fucked. Okay, yes. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing.
That's 4 more than any other team in the league.
Because we can talk about how much they rotate players, the players in their squad or whatever. And I think there's only so much class gets you. Damon, like you said before, the cojones. It is honestly the bite to play, not just 90 minutes, but 94 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, once, fair enough. Twice, fair enough. Even 3 times, fair enough. But to do it 7 times...
head and shoulders above the league in this department. It's ridiculous.
It's serious concern. And, to be 2-0 up last week against Newcastle. And did you see the substitutions Steve Bruce made? He brought on 2 defenders because Newcastle have such an injury-depleted squad at the moment. And you find 2 goals out of the centre-back. You are kidding me.
I could not believe it. Oh my God. Oh. I saw a circulation of memes and it just showed the time. It was 93 minutes in and the captions are just like, how can I tell my kids Everton didn't win from here? You know what I mean? It was just, I could not believe the fashion that they capitulated. It was just amazing to watch.
I think, I've got a question. You look at Southampton, Palace, Sheffield. They're the 3 teams that are either equal 1 point or 3 points in front of Everton.
Yeah.
Okay? So, obviously their league position, because of how tight it is a little bit like, 2 to 3 positions above. But for the most part, they're pretty similar in how many games they've won, lost, and drawn. Okay? Mm-hmm. We would consider Southampton, Palace, and Sheffield right now to be having successful seasons.
Maybe not Palace, but I'd say definitely Sheffield and Southampton.
Why are we so harsh on Everton then, sitting where they sit?
Because they're the team outside the top 6. If there was a top 7, they'd be that team.
You think?
Yes.
You know,
I wouldn't be West Ham.
Leicester? Or are you saying...
Okay, I'm talking name stature alone.
Okay.
Everton are that 7th team.
All right.
Okay? And to see where they went, what did they make? 5th in 2013 or something? They got to that height.
Yeah, their first year after Moyes, they finished 5th or 6th.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So once you get there, you can only... Once you get there, the drop has been radical.
Yeah.
And they circle managers, they've circled players. I wouldn't say...
They've spent the money.
But the thing is, they haven't spent the money wisely. And we could say about so many teams. Again, Captain Hindsight. But the thing is, if you're not spending the money wisely, and that's the reason why you're falling, then fans will be so bitter. And we see it with every team in the league. Newcastle, they spent the money, but it wasn't to avail. And yet, Newcastle are one of the most bitter fans in the league. You know, so that's the thing. It's just...
It's a real issue for them, and I think they need to address it sooner rather than later. I think Ancelotti might want to bring a sense of calmness around Goodison Park and then start again next season because, as I said months ago, the start of the season killed Everton.
Yeah, and I guess a last point I want to hit on as well because we talked about how good some of the keepers are in this league. Jordan Pickford now has been England's number one pretty much since Joe Hart fell under his great demise under Pep. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was very, very highly criticised, very highly publicised as well. Is Pickford's spot now in trouble for England number one?
I think Pickford's in real trouble for his England spot. He'll go to the Euros, but so will Dean Henderson. And, you know, we already touched on Dean Henderson a little bit today, so I won't go into him as much, but I think Pickford now really, that second goal that Everton conceded summed him up as a keeper. It was actually his positioning in terms of where he was standing between the posts was actually quite good. It hit the inside of the post. The first time, luckily, it came out. And to be honest, he stayed in the play. It would have been easy for him to almost stand there like a stunned mullet. Do you know what I mean? Like some keepers would do that in that situation. But he made a good save. The only problem was he was standing behind the line. And so it went over. And I think it just sums up Jordan Pickford as a keeper. It's a good save. But he was behind the line and it's a reflection of his style of he's never relaxed. He's always like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think Pickford's place is probably not as safe as what people make it out to be.
Yeah,
I don't think it should be as safe because we look at the likes of Tom Heaton. He has played well.
His ACL probably stuffs him up.
Ben Foster, even Ramsdale for Bournemouth, has been doing amazingly.
Nick Pope, obviously.
Exactly.
He's had a big few weeks, so, you know.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think, personally, if anyone was going to replace him, it'd be Nick Pope.
Okay.
I think it would be. And I don't know. I don't think Pickford... He's probably pretty rash, and he doesn't get enough... There's not enough chat about how uneasy he goes into games.
Yeah.
Because he's very, he's enigmatic. Obviously, he's a bit on the wild side in terms of personality.
And he just screams at his defenders every single time they concede.
Yeah, and I just think there are potentially better keepers in the league, English-wise, than Pickford.
Right
and I think Pope is the number one selection.
Yep, fair enough. I think Pope, Henderson, and Pickford will go to the Euros. That's just my prediction anyway.
Okay, yep. I think Henderson should be number one.
Yeah, well... Didn't you just say Pope should be number one?
No, I said Pope should be replace Pickford.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then Henderson number one. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Anyway, well, speaking of Pope, Woody, I think you might have a little bit to touch on. Well, not at him, but this next segment might involve him slightly. He might cop a mention. And that was, well, this is something that had to be returned with Woody's return, and that is Woody's whip.
So the subject of the whip today has to be the one and only team, Manchester United. Sammy says it every bloody week. It would not be this podcast if we didn't talk about United. And we're not talking about United this week. We're bloody going to spray them because the way the club is sitting at the moment is worse than what Newcastle was sitting at the start of the season.
Yep.
And that's completely fair. And it's completely just. If you look through any socials, right, the club internally is in such a disarray, and as such, it's flowing on down to not only the players but the supporters as well. Now, in the game against Burnley and Tranmere, they were both the supporters of United were calling through their chants for the death of the Glazers. Now, doesn't matter what code it is, if you're calling for the death of someone at your club, Ed Woodward and the Glazers. Now, it just shows the absolute rabble that United is as supporter base at the moment. Now, if we look at the club itself, clearly it's toxic from the top. Now, the Glazers aren't going to sell United. Woodward's not going to leave. If they're posting profits, nothing is going to move. They don't care. These guys are businessmen, not football fans. And it's always been the case. Always been the case. If you look at their purchases, right, they spend all this money, but then they make it back in shirt revenue. So they're not losing money any which way. You know what I mean? They post $300 million profits, right? Their stock goes down, it doesn't matter because they're still making money. If it's a business, then why would fans expect, these owners to invest any emotion into these teams? That's the thing. And that's where United are at as a club. Now, I think the biggest investment they can make is buying a bus and bussing some of these people out of the club. Seriously, rather than making a Bruno Fernandes transfer. Buy a bus and get rid of some people. Now, if you look at the players that shouldn't be in a winning XI right now, if you look at a team, this United squad, and think, who the hell is going to be in a next title winning squad? Damo? Who is going to be in it? De Gea? Maybe. Who knows?
Maguire,
De Gea.
Wan-Bissaka.
Yep. Rashford.
Rashford. Martial, if he can get some consistency.
Consistency, mate, the bloke is... If you watch a United game, you will not see anyone more lazy than Anthony Martial.
Really?
On a pitch. How can you not say that? The dude doesn't run. He throws up his arms at every pass. He gets caught offside 3-4 times a game, right? He's the dead set laziest person on the pitch.
I'd also chuck Fred in there, potentially.
As a
title-winning player.
No. As much as I've praised Fred this season, he is not the sort of player that is going to win a title. It's not happening, right? He was good, and he is good.
I think he'll win Player of the Season now that Rashford will miss the rest.
Okay, fine. But that's saying something. He's not been a good midfielder so far this season. Now, United are corrupt. They are corrupt, and nothing is going to change, and that's why they deserve a whip, because nothing is going to change. They are a business, and it's going to stay like that. And I don't know if we're going to see United come anywhere in the next 10 years. Because as long as they're making money, it's not changing. That's it. And I could have gone on for so much longer, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you make a really good point, Woody, about how from the top, it's very toxic, but the fans and sometimes even the players are just as toxic in the way they go about it. So something has to change. It has to be a ripple effect, just like it's a ripple effect with the toxicity. So, we might be sitting here next season saying the exact same things. We might not be. Who knows? But, it's probably one of the most publicised things going around at the moment, especially in the UK. And I think a 6-0 win over Tranmere doesn't really prove anything. But it's really important now whether they make a decision on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And that decision has to be thought out very, very, very carefully. Because
honestly, it's a merry-go-round at the moment. Mm-hmm. It is. It's true. Because look at... Ole is probably the worst quality manager they've had out of all the replacements that have been through. Okay? He did less than Moyes.
Yeah.
He did less than Moyes.
Can I just bring up one point, Woody? I look at, win-loss. I understand it's a win-loss industry. But at the same time, what has Solskjaer not achieved that the other managers have? Not much. Okay, an FA Cup, a Europa League. So on face value, you'd probably have to say that in terms of success, you can't necessarily sit here and say any of them have been successful. So then I come and say, okay, then what has Solskjaer done differently? He's got rid of guys like Ashley Young, Lukaku, Sanchez, who, short term, you might get you some wins, but long term, it's better for the long run. So would you, even if Solskjaer goes, do you think that, let's say the next manager is successful, might win a league, might I don't know, do well in the Champions League, whatever it might be in the next few years. Do you think Solskjaer has a claim to any sort of success United have in the coming years if he does go?
Well, for me, if you look at the players that have gone in the likes of Ashley Young, the bloke's 34. How many more years do you actually expect him to compete at an elite level? In all honesty, really. And I'm not saying he was at an elite level, but how many more years would you actually expect a 34-year-old to play who's not a club legend, who's not holding the team? If you look at Rooney, look how old he was when he left, right? He held the club together when he was at United.
Yeah.
So if he stayed to 34, then why would Ashley Young stay anymore? Seriously. That's the thing. It's an absolute merry-go-round of players and coaches at the moment.
A lot needs to change at their club. But, Woody, I mean, we could seriously talk about this for the rest of the day, which we might off mic. But for now, I think we probably need to wrap this one up, and hopefully Sammy can join us next week so that we have the three of us together.
The Three Musketeers.
For the first time in a while, which I'd really like to, because I think we do need to recap our predictions a little bit, like that we had at the start of the year. A transfer roundup, because next time you hear from us, the January transfer window will be shut. So we'll be recapping that from pretty much every perspective, or as detailed as we can. And but we will be posting some of the transfers on our Instagram, Woody. And where can you find the Insta?
You can find us on Insta at Premier League Nightclub.
And you can find us on the Twitter at PL Nightclub.
Is it TikTok coming?
No. I was just saying that to make Sam happy. It's not coming. It's not coming. We can't do it. But there may be some other things in the works, and also a few more guests coming. I know we sort of say that every week now, but it's true, isn't it, Woody? We've got some guests lined up.
We've got a star-studded list of guests coming up, and a couple you probably wouldn't expect to be on the show. So very exciting.
They've heard the music from outside. They want to get inside the nightclub.
Exactly.
I'm telling you,
exactly.
We've got a line outside. We're only letting a few people in at a time. But yeah, we're very excited about that. So I'm happy to wrap this one up, Woody. Stick a bow on it. And yeah, well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for having a boogie at the nightclub. See ya.
See ya.